And he joins us on the Harbor One hotline this morning. And Mike, you're the Bruins. You had a chance to close it and make those pesky Panthers go away, and you don't get it done last night.
You know, Greg, Thursday is my day. I wake up and I get ready to do this show, and I hear, hey, they made a mistake last night, Linus Ilmark. Let's get Andrew Raycroft on the phone. He knows what he's talking about. Don't listen to Milbury. Why do you call me in the mornings on Thursday? Should I talk about politics? Let's talk about politics.
Mike, I wanted the goalie perspective. You're in the prime spot. Razor was 8 o'clock. You're 8:20. I mean, don't worry about it, please.
Well, anyway. You know what? I want to talk politics for a little bit. You know, Joe Biden says we're all responsible for the children of our country. I want no responsibility for Hunter Biden. That's what I'm going to tell him right now. He's nothing. He's your hot mess, Uncle Joe.
Can we get to last night, please?
Okay, we can. All right. So I did listen, and Wiggy was right. There is communication. You don't have time to do a whole bunch of stuff, but you rim it or I'm here. But the first thing the goaltender has to do, and I don't think Andrew mentioned it, same thing with a defenseman, upon a dump in and retrieval, everybody has to, as they're skating backwards, take a peek over their shoulder, if they've got enough time, over both shoulders to get the appropriate read. He didn't get an appropriate read on what was going to happen in this play. He panicked. He screwed up. And I don't care if he becomes a goldfish after it or not. He should have admitted that he was dumb. I used to hate it when goalies came out to handle the puck. If he had let it go, it would have been right to Grzelcyk, and Grzelcyk could have made another decision. But goaltenders, that moment of hesitation that defensemen are given when the goaltender comes out because they don't know what he's going to do with it, has to be overcome with some level of communication. I'm skeptical that there was any talk on the ice on this particular moment, but it's all on the goalie.
So are you saying the lack of communication was less about what was going on with Linus and more so the players not, protecting the net while he was out?
No, I'm saying the lack of communication is on the handoff. I mean, that's where the critical moment occurs, when the goaltender decides to come out, leave his net unprotected, and he hasn't got a good read on what's going to happen next. I mean, it's all on him because everybody's waiting for him to make a decision with the puck. Clearly, he made the wrong decision, and that left everybody, including himself, incredibly vulnerable.
Mike, when you look at that situation, and I asked Razor this, it is.
Of course you did.
Well, he was on. I mean, I got to ask him a question. I'd rather talk to you because you're the hockey real guy. You've been there. Is Grzelcyk, is it his job, or I know you said peek over your shoulder, but is it his job as a defenseman to really be vocal in that moment to kind of let Linus know what's going on around him?
Well, he can't. Yes. I mean, it's sort of not convoluted, but he can't tell him what's all going on around him. He's got a, 0.5 of a second or a second at most to give him an instruction. Leave it, rim it, hard around, whatever you want to say. But there's probably 3 or 4 commands that are simple and easy to understand. And that's, I don't know if that happens. It should happen every time. It's so easy to do. Some guys come more naturally to it than others, but it's an inexcusable error when it doesn't occur. Did it occur on this occasion? I don't know, but it doesn't look like it worked out very well, whatever the command was.
I want to ask you about that first period, and those guys post-game all said that they kind of blew it. You got a turnover that results in that first Panthers goal. What did you see in that first period from the Bruins that was the issue last night?
Not enough. I didn't see enough. I didn't see enough, too many goldfish and not enough people with urgency in their game. Get ready to play. It's not going to be easy. We saw it we saw it a little in game 1. We saw it a little in game 2. They recovered when they were facing some adversity and played well in games 3 and 4. And then they took their foot off the gas pedal. They weren't chomping at the bit to come out and play and give Florida credit and give Bobrovsky credit. They were more mentally and physically engaged early on.
We're talking earlier about some continued struggles power play wise when it comes to, I think, that second power play, the second period where they could not get that puck in the zone. That was an issue early on, and we discussed with you that it looked like they had fixed that heading into the playoffs.
And it clearly isn't 100% fixed. I don't get it. There should be set options, and sometimes they just think they're freewheeling it, and that's okay too once in a while, because sometimes teams figure it out, they get a read on you, and you have to make do with what's given to you. But sometimes it just looks like it's coming without a plan, and that shouldn't be the case when you're in a man advantage on the breakout in particular. In the zone, different story. Things happen quickly. You get pressure from different points, but you should be able to get a good read when you're starting out from behind your net, where everybody is going to be on the ice and what your options are going to be to safely get the puck across the blue line and then begin the process of trying to find a way to score a goal.
Mike, from the standpoint of a coach, right? What's it like for a guy, or is it difficult for a guy like Montgomery, who's a player's coach, and you can almost see like sometimes the players, and I agree, like that nonchalant attitude, the goldfish, rather than just like, hey, we blew this opportunity. Is that the European type of player, or is that like too much of him as a player coach? I know we criticize Cassidy for being overboard. How do you walk that fine line as a coach to, kind of go in both worlds of really being disciplined but also being a player's coach?
It's a great question. I mean, it's the art form of coaching is motivation and being able to communicate with your players. And, if you're too light with a feather duster, you might not get the intensity that you need. If you're, overly critical, which apparently Cassidy was, I didn't see it to that degree, but, you're going to bruise feelings and they're going to be sort of lost in the haze. So there's a fine line of getting what you want from your players as a coach, and it's incumbent upon him to know which players need the feather duster and which ones need the boot. But it's right now collectively they look like they thought they should win the game. They thought they earned the game. They played well enough. Bobrovsky was good. Give him credit. And by the way, they've opened the door. If this guy can play, he's played before. He's a two-time Vezina Trophy winner. He can steal games. He can steal a series, and we've seen him do it. And the longer you let them hang around, the more likely that is to be an occurrence.
Mike, so far in this series, in your mind, is David Pastrnak falling short of the expectation?
Yeah, there was a moment when I caught him on the bench, and it looked like, it looked like he was ticked off. Like he wasn't getting the ice time he should be getting, or I don't know what it was, but it was so unlike anything I've seen all season long with Pastrnak, because he's usually got a smile, happy-go-lucky, scores a goal, he's all charged up, he comes in with his suits on, everything's happy about Pastrnak. Last night I didn't see that. I don't know what's going on in his head, but he's not been as visible a player. He hasn't had the number of scoring opportunities, and clearly has not been productive. So I don't know what the issue is with him, but for the first time I saw a guy that didn't look like he was, having a good time.
Well, Wiggy's point earlier was essentially that David, and it may have been a good point, was that David Krejci is his binky, and he doesn't have David Krejci.
You know what, I know this gets me into hot water sometimes, but a lot of people I talk to aren't that unhappy about Krejci not being in the lineup, because, listen, it's a great player, great hands, but the pace slows down with him out there. Now, maybe the pace slowing down for him is good for Pastrnak as he puts it into overdrive and goes wide on the wing and gets an opportunity. I don't know, but I don't think it should have anything. So what? He lost his binky. Find a new one. I mean, you got to move on. Everybody's going to get hurt during this playoffs. Some members of your team are going to get hurt. You can't have a perfect world, and especially not at this time of the year. So, just be happy perfectly with your $11 million or whatever he's got.
Mike, you bring up the Panthers switch at goalie and how that's worked for them. Some fans want to see Swayman in this thing. How big of a question is that for Montgomery? Is that something that you think he's even contemplating going into Game 6?
I don't think he is. I was a little surprised that he anointed Linus to start this. But right now it seems like he's given the reins. I don't know where Swayman's head is at. Everybody tells me what a great kid he is, and he's mature, and he'd be ready to go. But, when you're a goaltender who's had this kind of a year, and you've been in a 1-2 rotation, and all of a sudden they've handed the ball to your partner and basically just said, sit at the end of the bench. I don't know where he comes out of this, but I don't think there's any consideration for the coach to make a change in goal. I think he's already made his bed, and now he's got to lie in it and make sure that Linus doesn't have the brain fart that he had last night.
If you were Jim Montgomery, would you have Trent Frederick back in that lineup Friday night?
I don't know why he was out of the lineup. I don't know why. I mean, everybody loves Nick Foligno. I think he's great, been a great player, great leader. But I want Frederick in there for, what did he score? 17 goals this year. He was a good player, smart player, tough player, playoff player, and there's no room for sentiment going into the playoffs. Not that Foligno's been terrible or anything. He's really resurrected his career in many ways, but right now I'd take the edge of youth, enthusiasm, and Frederick. That's my play.
Mike, you obviously had a long career on television covering the NHL playoffs at NBC. What do you make of the ESPN broadcasts, the highlighting of the players? Do you think it's distracting, the graphics on the screen in-game?
Well, I'll start by saying that Sean is outstanding. McDonough is just an outstanding broadcaster, and Ray Ferraro knows what he's talking about most of the time. Sometimes I wonder what he's seeing from his perch, but I mean, the other stuff, what I hate is when you're looking at the game and you have that wide angle camera, the main camera angle, and all of a sudden they switch it to the camera angle behind the net. It's like I get vertigo. I mean, where the hell is the puck? Where is everybody? Stop trying to play Steven Spielberg and just follow the puck. It's tough enough to see the puck on TV as it is. Don't play mind games with me. That's what bothers me. That little Hampus Lindholm is carrying the puck up, and I got to see his name. That's just, remedial hockey.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching on NESN last night, and speaking of angles, they did not have a great angle when it came to the Lauko penalty, but I don't understand how, so I didn't watch it 10 times, but I don't understand how in a playoff game both guys aren't going off the ice for that.
It was awful. It was really sinful to have that happen, and I don't know what was going on in his mind. I mean, we all question referees from time to time, but that one was easy. He wasn't either not paying attention or just caught it out of the corner of his eye, or something was amiss here, because this was a both of you go, or just knock it off. Let's get back and take the face off. And I thought it was just a gross error in judgment.
Yeah.
Mike, the one thing I said about the Krejci thing, not so much as a binky, but you look at, he had 40 assists this year. Pasta had a great season. How much of, and you being in the situation as a coach and a player, how much is it that, like, a guy like Pasta maybe relies on a centerman like Krejci, who's a setup guy, and now he doesn't have that, and maybe he's kind of trying to figure out, the new guy there, and is not the same as what he's been used to all season long. See, I think it's more of that with Pasta than him necessarily saying, "Oh, he's my binky."
See, this is the problem with a coach who's trying to mix and match. He's trying to play Betty Crocker with his line recipes. Mm-hmm. Like, you want to have somebody that you're familiar with, and that familiarity, if it breaks down over time, you got to mix up the recipe again. But to continually change those lines and familiarity of the players with one another, and the expectations, communication of one form or another, can be as unproductive as productive on occasion. So I just think he needs to listen. Marchand goes with Bergeron, goes with DeBrusque right now. Stop thinking about it. Stop making a big deal about it. You're not, the coach is not blocking any shots. He's not scoring any goals. He's just thinking, his wheels are thinking. Think about how to get each player to play to their potential, not mixing and matching. It's past that time for the most part. Although there always comes a point in the game when things aren't going as energetically as you want, and a change, at least temporarily, sparks people.
Speaking of Marchand, can you key Wiggy in on how difficult it is to score on that breakaway with limited time remaining, please?
Yeah, he didn't make a bad shot. He didn't make a great shot. I think he was aware of time limitations and that the clock was running out momentarily. I think if he had it to do again, I mean, what goaltenders do now is mostly butterfly, right? They're out at the top of the crease, although he wasn't out that far. And most of the time you're seeing goals go up. And I think if he had another millisecond, if he had a chance to do it over again, he would have gone high. But I think he rushed his decision. He rushed his shot. And he had to rush it. There was just a half second left on the clock. I can't fault him. Well, I can fault him, but he didn't score a goal. But it was, those were tough circumstances. So I cut him a little slack.
All right, Mike. They get it done down there Friday night, or
I think they'll get it done, whether it's Friday or Saturday. But it's unfortunate for them because they've given themselves a steeper hill to climb, not just in this series, but for the rest of the playoffs, because they could have clearly used the rest, and they're going to get less of it. So call me next week, or if Raycroft's not available. Right?
Mike Milbury, as always, a pleasure, and we will talk to you next week. No Razor Raycroft next Thursday. Just
all right,
you.
see you.
All right.